Okay, homework 9, number 7. Write a while loop that determines how many odd numbers are in the following array. Now you're given a bunch of numbers. So for this type of problem, there are many ways to approach it. The easiest way would be to use a while loop in a similar fashion as you would use a for loop, right? Where I'm just going to check every element of this array individually. So let's go to MATLAB and do this. So I'm going to copy the array. I'm going to take it to MATLAB. I will open a new script file and let me paste it here, and I will call this array A. You can call it whatever you want, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's add some comments. So this is homework 9, number 7, and I want to write a while loop to count how many odd numbers are in the array. Okay, so I'm gonna first of all, let's write our while loop while, and I just want to iterate over every single element of this loop. So I'm gonna initialize a counter before my while loop. Let's say while I is equal to 1 and while I is less than or equal to length of A. So initially I'm just creating a counter to count over the array elements, and then this just make sure it's spelled correctly, length A, and this is my logical expression here, and you can see my logical expression. What I'm doing is, as long as I is less than the length of this array, I'm gonna carry out some sort of code here, and the moment I exceeds the length of this array, I'm gonna stop, right? So this is similar to what a for loop naturally does, and perhaps this type of problem is more suited for a for loop than a while loop. But we're asked to do it using a while loop, so this is what we're gonna do. So what type of expressions should we write within our while loop? So we need to check if a number is odd or even. Need to check if or even, right? And then we need to count odd numbers. This is what we need to do. So by definition, an odd number or an even number is a number which is divisible by 2, right? So if I have 24, for example, 24 divided by 2, I get a nice solid integer number, no decimals, no fractions. Whereas 25, for example, if I divide it by 2, I get a 0.5, which means this is an odd number. So the way to determine if a number is odd or even is by looking at the remainder after division by 2. So if the remainder after division by 2 is 0, then this number is even. If the remainder after division by 2 is 1, then this number is odd. And to determine the remainder, there are two expressions you could use. First one is called mod, so I can say mod, and by mod is a function which takes two inputs. The first input is the number, it's basically your numerator. Second input is your denominator. So if I put mod 25.2, it's going to give me 1, which is the remainder of this division. If I put mod 3.2, it's going to be 1. If I put mod 2.2, it's going to be 0, right? A similar expression, or basically an identical expression for our purposes, is the remainder expression. It's expressed using these three letters, REM. And again, similarly, it takes two inputs. The first input is the numerator, so if I put 24, second input is the denominator, in our case 2, because we want to check if it's odd or even, and it will give you the remainder of this division. If I put remainder 5 by 2, it's 1, remainder 4 by 2, it's 0. So you could use either of these expressions to determine whether a number is odd or even. So let's do this. Let's go back to our command, to our script, and let's see. So I'm gonna so I want to check if the remainder of sub I, so the by 2, if this remainder is equal to 1, then this is an odd number, right? If the remainder of the division by 2 is equal to 1, then it's an odd number, right? And this is what I'm checking. So this is just a logical expression. I need to either put an if statement before it, so I'm going to put if the remainder of the division of a sub I by 2 is equal to 1, then this number is odd, so I need to start counting. So I need to count the odd numbers, right? So this statement basically checks if a number is odd or even, and then this statement, which I'm going to put here, is going to start counting them. And to count them, I need to create a counter variable. So let's outside the loop, I'm going to create number underscore odd. I'm going to initialize it to 0, and here I'm going to number odd, or maybe no odd. Let's just call it odd. Let's just call it odd is equal to odd plus 1, right? And then I'm going to end out of my if statement. So let's have a closer look at what we did. Sorry. So while I is less than or equal to length of a, so while I is less than the length of this array, so I'm gonna check every element of this array individually. If the remainder of a sub I divided by 2 is equal to 1, so 1 divided by 2, the remainder is 1, so this is an odd number. And if this expression is true, then I'm going to start adding it or incrementing it to add the odd number, right? And then I'm going to end out of this loop and end out of my while loop. I think I forgot something here. So we have our I, but I is not incrementing anywhere, so the value of I will not change. And again, this is not a for loop where the value of your counter increments automatically. In a while loop, you have to explicitly mention it. So at the end here, I need to say I is equal to I plus 1, and this is my while loop counter. So this line is very important in a while loop. You should always increment your counter by writing it explicitly within your loop. Unlike a for loop where it automatically increments with every loop, a while loop, you have to write it down because you have a logical expression which has to be satisfied. And this basically should achieve what the problem is asking for. Again, let's go through it. So I have two counters. The first one is I, which will count over the elements of the loop. Second one is odd, which was basically a counter for the number of odd numbers in the array. And then I have a logical expression here, while I is less than length of a. So while I is less than the length of a, so basically I will go over the entire body of a if the remainder of a sub I by 2 is equal to 1, then I'm going to say odd is equal to odd plus 1, and then I'm going to end. And at the bottom here, I have an incremental counter, I is equal to I plus 1. So basically, it's going to check each element, check the remainder of each element when divided by 2. If this remainder is equal to 1, it's going to increment the odd number counter by 1. And how many odd numbers are in this array? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So I expect odd to be equal to 10. And so let's outside the loop, let's just display odd. Okay, let's again, before this I'm gonna write CLC clear just for good housekeeping. Let's run this loop and see if we get the number we expect. So again, it's gonna ask you to save it. Let's save it. So this is homework 9 number 7. Okay, let's run it. So it's not happy with something. Let's check it. Incorrect use of the equal operator to assign a value to compare values. Okay, so where's this? Line 12. Okay, so it's not happy inside. So it's saying that if I'm using the equal in a logical expression, I need to have two equals for comparison. So this is what we're going to do. Let's run it again. And it's giving us that odd is equal to 11. So why is that? Let's see. Do we have 11 odd numbers here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? I only see 10 odd numbers. Okay, let's try and troubleshoot it more carefully. So I'm gonna copy this A and put it in my command window here. And then I'm gonna say A divided by 2 just to see how many fractions I'm getting, right? So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I should get 10 odd numbers. But I'm getting 11 as my odd number. Okay, let's think about it. Let's see what's going on here. So let's see. Let's see if I can use the rem expression over the entire array. Let's see if this works. Here we go. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wait, are there 11 odd numbers? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, so these two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's an odd number here. 9. Yeah, they're 11. Yeah, they're 11. Just couldn't see it. Alright, so this code will achieve this objective. Sounds good.